With Fantastic Four failing at the box office, making this the third Marvel flop of the year. They're 0 for 3 at this point. Captain America Brave New World, Thunderbolts, and of course, Fantastic Four. Clearly, just as we've been saying for years, there is a problem with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Fans have been saying it, audience members have been saying it, and now even the media is slowly catching on because there's no point in denying it any longer. But also someone else is speaking out about it, and it's somebody who wrote for Marvel. It's somebody who's a showrunner on one of the most beloved projects to come out recently in X-Men 97, and it's someone who no longer works at the company. He's been putting Marvel on blast for a while, and he did so again just the other day publicly. Former Marvel writer exposes toxic Kevin Feige creative meetings in explosive X thread. Now, the person we're talking about, the person in question is Beau DeMayo. Now, Beau DeMayo did X-Men 97 and ended up getting fired from Marvel. Now, certainly whenever you're talking about things like this, you got to keep all this in perspective. Does Beau DeMayo have a massive axe to grind against Marvel? Yes, he does. Was the reason he was fired valid? Some of the things that came out about that? We don't know as of yet. Maybe we'll see in the future. I did stories about that. I did videos about that. You can check that out. But Beau DeMayo, who is black and who is gay, was fired by Marvel, and he has not been happy about that. He's been very vocal, and he's been very vocal criticizing a lot of aspects of the way that Kevin Feige runs this company. I just want to put that out there because it is important to know. It's not just some random person. It is somebody that definitely has an axe to grind. But with that being said, let's get into it. To those asking why I'm not so hard on Superman, the answer is I've never worked with Gunn or DC. And you do have some people that have major axes to grind with Marvel that are not having some of the similar criticisms for something like Superman that you would think, but we'll get past that. Like Matt Shakman and the writers of Fantastic Four, I've sat in the creative meetings at Marvel Studios. They're horrible. You basically sit in a room with Kevin Feige and Lou D'Esposito, and try to pitch your movie while also realizing that Kevin just wants you to dictate his rushed thoughts. Victoria used to be in these, but Kevin and Lou had so mistreated her that in one of my Blade meetings, she just showed up with sugar cookies she'd bake to help improve morale. Now, he doesn't specify the last name of Victoria, but we can all assume that that's Victoria Alonso. So when we do get into this, I think there's a lot of criticism to be had for Kevin Feige. I think he has destroyed the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, it is all on his shoulders. Maybe he's not to blame for every single thing that's happened, but at the end of the day, the buck stops with him. He is the one to blame. But Victoria Alonso was a big part of the problem too. Victoria Alonso, who was also fired from Marvel, and she claimed, it's because I'm gay and a Latino woman, that's why. She's a massive woke activist. This is the same person who said that the X-Men name is outdated because there's women on that team too. This is the same person that refused to do their job and edit out the pride flags in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania because she's gay. I'm not going to edit that out. How dare I? She's the same one who went on stage and publicly slammed Disney and her bosses for not doing enough to promote gay bullshit in Disney, right? This is who Victoria Alonso is. So Beau's defending her, I suppose, in all of this. You're even told not, but this is what I want to get to, because whatever you want to say about this or whoever an axe to grind, the one thing that Beau DeMayo has always been very, very consistent about, which I really appreciate because it's not there very often nowadays in the writers' rooms, he cares about the source material. He cared about it when he was doing the dog shit Witcher show. He made comments about it and how there was a lot of problems with that show because they departed so much from the source material. And he wanted very much to be true to the source material for X-Men 97. And that is something he's passionate about. So I do respect when he talks about that. You're even told not to try to pitch ideas from the comics because Lou isn't a big comic guy and it'll turn him off. You just sit there and talk craft and story of the characters, only to have Kevin and Lou say, yeah, well, all we need to do is make sure it's fun, etc., etc. There's no spark. There's no vision. Marvel's a slaughterhouse factory where you watch fresh meat get spoiled as it slowly makes its way through the assembly of gears and mediocre thinking and this weird hatred for their own product. This is why Rob Liefeld isn't just some bitter old man. Talking about the comic book writers is met with open contempt. I had to fight to get the Lulds involved in X-Men 97, and even then, the dismissive news to which Dana Vasquez Ebart spoke about them basically tell me the OG creators were meant to be seen and not heard to appease the fans. I wanted to co-write an episode with them, and that was Dana's response. I even remember wanting to talk to Chris Claremont, great X-Men writer, and being shut down, or not wanting Joe Maduria to do posters, just as I was scolded for being too friendly with fans or coming off as too much of one. This was in a meeting where I pitched that we could use Blade as a chance to pick up the dangling threads from Doctor Strange when it came to Wanda and the Darkhold. We could use Varney and the Darkhold cultists. So he's talking about in depth some of the conversations he's had, that they don't like the comics. They don't like the comics. They don't respect the comics. They don't like the writers. They don't like the stories. They just want to put a product out regardless of whether it goes against all the decades and decades of Marvel comics in history. Like, that's what this is all about. One of my drafts will be with Deacon Frost, tricking some British explorers to track up Mount Wugador, where he does blood magic to reveal the vampire spell used by Varney. There's a lot in here, right? He's explaining in depth the things he wanted to do to maybe wrap up some of these threads that are still open in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. To Kevin's credit, he liked the idea, as well as my pitch that magic is to Blade what snakes are to Indiana Jones. He hates magic. But then Lou felt it was too comic booky, while Mahershala Ali bumped on there being magic in the film tonally. Then I watched as them and Nate Moore picked it apart where we were off to a new draft. It's a broken machine, and so I can see where Matt and his team probably had great ideas, only for Marvel's arrogance to destroy them. This has been a concerted thing from Bo DeMeo over the past year plus, basically since he got fired, right? He's been very openly, adamantly talking about the problems with Marvel. Does he have an axe to grind? Yes, he does. Certainly he does, but it doesn't change the reality that there is a problem at Marvel. There has been for years now, for years and years. Before we actually started to see some of these negative effects of the box office, there was a problem. It was back in 2018 when Kevin Feige said that, hey, we want more female heroes and villains than male in the MCU because we care so much about diversity and representation and all of this bullshit. So you shoved aside decades and decades of good stories you could tell to fast forward characters that had no business being in these television shows or movies or whatever to satisfy your quotas. And you can think whatever you want about Bo DeMeo, but he does and has basically for years shown he has a reverence for the source material. That is something that Marvel could do with more of. X-Men 97 is one of the only almost completely positively reviewed things that has been out, and now Bo DeMeo's not going to be on season 2. But certainly put them on blast, the way Kevin Feige runs the company, the way how executives just kind of slow everything down and they put out dog shit product because they don't care about some of the people that have knowledge of these subjects, knowledge of the lore, and ideas for what Marvel could do in the future. Doesn't make it too far in the Marvel creative meeting rooms.